Hey, grade 11s. This is the start of our, I suppose, our lessons. So our next booklet, we'll skip some of the stuff that had to do with graphing polynomials. You know enough to be able to work that for now. We're going to pick up with our algebra review booklet. So this was the stuff from grade 9 and grade 10. You know, standard algebra type questions. Just a little bit of review for us, and I'll upload this package to you. I think there's 4 pages, 3 or 4 pages. Yeah, 4 total pages. You'll see some word problems in there. We'll have a look at some chemistry, some ratio work and that kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll just let me get out my little whiteboard and we'll get started. All right, everybody. So here we are, algebra review. Algebra originally was pronounced al-jabr. It's a Persian word by a fellow named al-Khwarizmi. He's the, we give him the credit for coming up with algebra in our modern everyday world, but it was known before him. He just wrote a big book about it, and this goes back to before the Crusades. And it was brought to European culture by the Crusades. And by and large, algebra is a philosophy. So philo, if you guys remember, means to love, and Sophie or sophos means wisdom. So I want to look at the quick philosophy behind algebra. And yeah, we did cover this way back in September. So when we did our review of grade 10, but I just want to kind of revisit this for now. So let me just write up the 3 parts of the philosophy of algebra. Alright, so all algebra is based on these 3 concepts, right? Isolating the variable, eliminating the parts around it, and balancing your equation after you make your changes. So, we'll start off with some very easy stuff that you kind of already know, and then we'll start to get harder and harder and harder as, that's typically how we approach our subject. So let's have a look at a very basic one. I know it's kind of insulting to your intelligence, but just to start off with. Okay, so x plus 5 equals 23. Pretty easy thing to solve. Some of you probably already guessed it by now. The answer, of course, is 18. But let's just play out the philosophy and go back to the very first principles and see how it plays out. So to start off with, I have to figure out what to isolate. So that's here, right? That's your x variable. And then in order for me to isolate it, I have to cancel out the part that's stopping it from being isolated. So I have to cancel out that plus 5. Of course, how do you eliminate positive 5? Well, you have to minus 5 to both sides. Well, you have to minus 5 here, and then to balance, you have to minus 5 to the other side to keep balance. So let's see what that looks like after we... Alright, so here we see how it played out, right? We had a minus 5 to both sides, so I eliminated it by minusing 5 to that side, and then I had to keep balance by minusing 5 to the other side, as you know. And so our answer, right, is 18. So x is equal to 18. And there's your answer. Now you don't have to think about it, your answer automatically appears, and so there's no guesswork that's needed. And what I find a lot of people who struggle with algebra is that they try to guess it and then, fabricate some sort of algebra looking stuff that makes it look like you know what you're doing, but in reality it's just harder that way. The easier way is just to go through the process of isolation, elimination, and balance. So yeah, just take precautions about trying to guess ahead. Let's have a look at a little bit of a harder question. Alright, so here we see another equation. It has variables and numbers on both sides, and so our job really is to organize the variables on one side and the numbers on the other side. And you can do it any way you like, of course, as you know. So often what we do is we draw ourselves a little line down the middle, and we figure out which side we want to put the x's on and which side we want to put the numbers on. So I'm going to choose to put the x's on this side and the numbers on that side, and wind up keeping everything positive. So let's just see how that plays out. Okay, so I had to cancel out the minus 28 by adding 28 to both sides, and then I had to cancel out the 2x by minusing 2x to both sides, and so I wound up getting 3x is equal to 21. Yeah, I have the x's on the, on the right side of the line, but that's okay as long as it's organized with x's on one side and numbers on the other. So I'm almost done. This is 3 times x equals 21. So now I just have to divide by 3 to both sides. Okay, so I divided by 3 to both sides and I get x is equal to 7. No need for me to guess it. Job's done. Alright, so we're going to start having a look at some of the questions that you're going to see in your booklet. It starts off with doing some ratio work, so I'll help you structure your algebra and your ability to solve ratios. And that's really most of the types of questions is dealing with ratio work. So yeah, we'll start there next. Alright, the algebra that's involved with ratio work, the kind of work you'll see in your booklet, has to do with dealing with questions that have one fraction equaling another, with x either on the top or x on the bottom. And when x is on the top, it's very simple. Good old-fashioned algebra will do the trick. So here I have x as being divided by 15, right? In order to isolate it, I have to do the opposite of divide, which would be multiply. Okay, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 15. Now sometimes it's important to remember how fractions work when you do this, but you know, for most people this is not too hard to move beyond. So let's have a look and see how that plays out. Multiply both sides by 15, so it winds up canceling. I write it as 15 over 1 just to help remember how things cancel, but after a while you won't need to do that. So the 15s cancel, and I have this thing to calculate. So 20 times 15 divided by 25. Okay, so let's calculate that. Okay, so there's our answer. X is equal to 12 after going through that process. Over here on the other side, when x is on the bottom, you know, there's a couple ways to manage it, but here's the way that I like to do it. I like to flip both sides of the fractions. Totally legit math move to do. I can show you the fancy notation for it if you like, but you know, as long as you do to one side what you do to the other, then that's fine. So if I flip one side, well, then I gotta flip the other. So let's flip both sides and see if we can make some progress. Okay, so I flipped both sides of the fraction. I got my x on top, so that makes it a lot easier. Now all I have to do is figure out how to cancel out that divided by 72. The opposite of divide by 72 is multiply by 72, of course. So let's see if you can finish the job and get an answer. All right, I'll pause the video and you can see how you do. Pow! There it is. X is equal to 54. So when x is on the bottom, you got to flip both sides. Don't forget to flip both sides. People sometimes flip one and then they forget to flip the other, and that's gonna like make it hard. So yep, make sure you flip both sides of the fraction. So what I want to do is I want to have a look at a couple of word problems and help you establish the equations to get started, and then I'll let you guys try to get some work done. Alright, so page 1 of the algebra review booklet, you know, the first one after the title page, gives you some questions to start off with that are like just simple algebra like we practiced. And then we start getting into the word problems. And your ability to create the equation from the word problem is going to be key to your success. So let's have a look at the very first question, which talks about Tom's red bicycle travels 50 feet for every 3 pedal turns. How many pedal turns are needed to travel a mile, which is 5,280 feet? This is letter G off of that first page in. So yep, theory practice, remember those. So here's how we set it up. Okay, so we start off with distance and pedals, like we set up the algebra equation or the ratio equation. And that just uses letters to help us keep things organized. And the big thing about that is making sure that your letters are the same, you know, in the same order on both sides of your equal sign. If they're not the same, then you're gonna mess it up and it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna go wrong. So keep the letters the same. It doesn't matter which order, because it will work out, but they have to be in the same order. So here I use D for distance and P for pedal turns. And so yep, and after that it's about plugging in the numbers that we know and figuring out where to put our x value. I'm just about done. I need, like I said, I don't need much more time. Okay, so they just create fractions from the ratio equations. Notice that x is on the bottom. So let's see if you can solve for x. All right, I'll pause and see if you can do it. Yeah, you gotta flip the fraction because x is on the bottom. So I got 3168 as my number, and I think if you go into the booklet, you will find 3168 somewhere in there. Let's see here. Hmm. 316.8. Yeah. Sorry, 316.8. Oh, 316.8. And if you round that, that is the number 317 or into. So INTO goes into slot box G in your booklet, and that's that helps you fill out the joke at the top. So, ladies and gentlemen, this will conclude my my first video lesson for you guys in grade 11, and we will I'll pick up next day or next video for you guys to help you finish up some of the stuff in there that has to do with chemical equations. And let's see, what else do we wind up seeing in there? Oh, recipes I think might be in there too. No, we have abstract algebra to finish off the end booklet. So we'll talk about abstract algebra and chemical equations in the next video. All right, so here's hoping that you guys can survive. All right, take care, guys. Bye.